Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Let's get after it.
NBA Youngboy did an interview, and it looks like the interviewer got a little too much information out of him, because look at what he says at the end.
Said that music, like in terms of getting paid, it's like the biggest thing on all your art.
Yeah, because man, it's the mind industry that I chose to be a part of. So like I accept that I'm with it, but don't be a dominant at the same time. You gotta understand that using it as entertainment, and this shit becomes self-destruction too. Cause I ain't entertained. You know, some shit can be spoke on. Why? Man, but shit is continued.
Is in terms of like
Every time it's
Honestly, that didn't sound like he was talking about like signing a deal with the devil or selling his soul or anything like that. To me, it sounded more like he's talking about how the music industry executives try to control the artists. And he was talking about, you know, it's important to own all your own material and stuff like that because you'll get screwed. And I think that's all that was. And then I think he realized, oh man, I might get in trouble for talking about this. And then he shut up.
The city of Agartha, Hollow Earth.
Smokey God. Willis George Emerson tells the story of Olaf Jensen's incredible journey to Agartha and the 2 years he spent living there with his father. Jensen and his father were traveling in their small fishing boat in an attempt to find the land beyond the north wind when a windstorm carried them through a polar opening into the interior of the earth. There, they met who he called the Elder Race, friendly, intelligent, lanky 12-foot giants. He said later they were able to grow tall in this unique electrical energy field that was always there inside the earth, and that these giants were able to live up to 800 years. Jensen described the inner world as warm, where it rained once a day and was filled with highly charged electrical air. There's a density to the atmosphere, he said, and this is what he believes led to the immense vegetation there. The title of the book, Smokey God, refers to the inner world's glowing and smoky sun. Most interesting was his explanation of these fast, noiseless, flying objects on which he rode. He said they had revolving fan-like wheels which destroyed atmospheric pressure, or what he called gravitation, and this force prevented them from falling to one side or the other. After spending 2 years with these beings in Agartha, Olaf and his father attempted to return through the opening. On the journey home, however, his father lost his life when an iceberg destroyed their boat. Jensen was later rescued by some fishermen. But when he shared his incredible story, they placed him in a madhouse for the mentally insane, where, sadly, he remained for 28 years.
Very sad ending. It would have been awesome if his dad would have survived and you had two people to corroborate each other's stories. What I find interesting about this story and makes it a little harder, as far as I'm concerned, to just write off as a work of fiction is he describes this giant race, but then he actually describes why they're so giant. He talks about the air having this electromagnetic quality that helps them to grow really, really tall, helps all their vegetation and stuff to grow big. It sounds like he's not just making wild claims, he's actually backing it up with, and here's why they're so tall. Here's why this takes place or that takes place. He's actually got the details that you would assume would be missing if someone were just making up a wild story like this. But until we find some people living inside the earth, we got no choice really but to just assume that this is just a story.
This is a bit different question. The composition of the earth, is there a like a hollow space inside?
No. There are hollow spaces here and there, tunnels, caves, what have you. There are also some underground bases here and there. But the idea that typically you are calling the hollow earth is not hollow in that way. Many times when people report having an experience of something like that, they may have entered through some sort of cave or tunnel and actually walked through a dimensional portal or vortex and wound up in another reality and think they're still inside the earth, but they're not. So it's not physically hollow, although you may have a kind of an experience that makes it look like it is if you have transcended to another parallel reality or other dimension that appears that way. Does that answer your question?
So there is no life on the inside of the earth, the inner earth?
Not in the way that you mean that, no. When you experience that, that's just your physical interpretation of life in another dimension that's not actually physically inside your planet, but seems to be because that's how you accessed it.
Okay.
Make sense?
A little bit.
A little bit, all right. Well, do you understand the idea of different dimensions and how everything overlaps? So you can misunderstand that you've actually shifted to another reality and think that you're still in the one you started in when you're not. You understand that? It's like crossing through a doorway, but not knowing that you've actually crossed into another room in a different reality.
All right, first of all, that guy sounds like he's talking out of his ass. I like the theory that would be a good way to explain the Hollow Earth theory, that you're actually entering into a different dimension through some hidden portal or something inside the earth. So you go down into a cave, walk through it, and bam, you're in a different dimension. I like that idea. What I don't like is someone speaking with such authority on things there's no possible way they know to be fact. It's extremely frustrating to me. I feel like a lot of people are misled like that. If you talk like you've got authority, if you talk like you know 100% that what you're saying is true, a lot of people just buy into it and get sucked into some really, really bad ideas. The guy should be saying, I think, or I theorize that this is what happened.
Did we have technology thousands of years ago? Many theories on historical civilizations and how they were able to build and maintain their structures and societies are discredited due to the lack of evidence. What many people fail to realize is that the more advanced a civilization becomes, the less effort they would put in. When we look at ancient Sumerian texts, what we find today is cuneiform writing into stones. These are much harder to destroy or get rid of, which is why we were able to find and decode it today. But think about it. In 2024, we don't write in clay or stones to record our information. It is all printed out on paper or stored digitally, which can easily be erased, burned, or stored on a tiny stick. So the theory is that this could have easily been the case thousands of years ago. Over the last 100 years, we have found many strange artifacts, some that have mechanical components that don't make sense. When X-rays were done of these mysterious artifacts, they detected that it was over 2,000 years old and had computer-like components.
I do think this theory makes perfect sense. I would say 1,000 years from now, it'd be more likely that they would find ancient artifacts than find something with actual detailed information on it that we've left behind, because it's all going to rot and wither away. But ancient artifacts like these stone tablets and clay pottery and stuff like that that's buried inside of sediment and everything and being protected by the earth, that stuff's going to last for forever. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, I make a new one just like it every single day. It would be awesome if you'd hit that subscribe button and come back tomorrow to join me.
You need to hear the story of a woman called Dorothy Yeii. Have you heard about this woman? Oh my gosh. So in 1907, Dorothy, at the age of 3, was playing on a flight of stairs and had a tragic fall. The family doctor came and was like, nothing we can do here. Unfortunately, she's gone. He left and he came back an hour later to prepare the body and found her playing on her bed. But the thing is, Dorothy never went back to like her normal self. She kept telling her parents that she wanted to go home, but she couldn't describe where home was. Maybe she had an overactive imagination, maybe she had a, traumatic head injury. Yeah, well, one day she went to a British Egyptian museum. She saw some statues next to a mummy and she told her parents to leave her with her people. She saw this temple, the Temple of Seti, and was like, there's my home. But she's like, where are the trees? Where are the gardens? The craziest thing is Dorothy would take archaeologists on these various expeditions. She would describe things in such vivid details and even show details that they had previously missed. And she would say, this is not from research. This is all from memory. According to Dorothy, in a previous life, she was an Egyptian princess called Bentreshet and lived in the Temple of Seti. King Seti fell in love with her because of her immaculate beauty, and it was a violation of religious laws because she got pregnant. And according to her, she committed suicide so that King Seti could avoid the embarrassment, and they knew they'd be together in a later life. So the question is this real or is this a hoax? But this story is crazy. Anyways, love you, bye.
I've actually heard about this story before, and he left out what I think to be the most fascinating part. When I heard the story, and this was an article that I was reading online that actually has photos of the lady and stuff, because this is a fairly modern tale. The craziest part of the story that I found was there was a specific closed off room or something that she kept describing the interior of, and they found this room and opened it for the first time, and everything in there was identical to the way she described it, which is just not possible.
Yep, this is actually happening, and thousands of dogs are being infected with deadly parasites in their food supply all across the country. And if your dog doesn't get away, they may not survive. People were terrified after several news sites were reporting on dogs suffering terrifying deadly symptoms like vomiting, diarrhea, and even seizures after eating food that was allegedly covered in living parasites. With some pet owners reporting it wasn't just crawling and burrowing itself in the food, but when breaking into their dog food, they allegedly found dead frozen worms inside. NBC reported that almost 1,000 pets were sent to urgent care over this, and a whopping over 230 deaths happened across the country. Many dog owners were in tears after a lot of these symptoms came allegedly after switching their dog food to Purina, and many of them passed within just weeks. Even pet store owners talking about how they have thrown away an entire dumpster of Purina dog food because they were allegedly moldy and had disease-ridden parasites crawling out of it. Purina has not had a recall for this situation and refutes the claims by saying their quality assurance team conducts more than 100,000 checks every day at the factories and says the reports online are false.
Now, this is not something I typically put in my videos, but I come across this yesterday whenever I was going through looking for clips for the video, and I just felt like I needed to put it in here to warn anyone that's watching this. If you've got a dog, you might want to switch your dog food if you're using that stuff. I just know I've got animals and I don't want anything bad happening to them, so I figured I'd give everybody a heads up.
All right, in my last video, we talked about Shani Devi. If you didn't watch it, I'll give you the overview. Shani Devi was a little girl that was born in India in like 1930. She was having all these past life memories when she was 8-year-old. She told her parents about it. She was like, this was my husband. I died in childbirth. They were like, there's no way this is true. They wrote a letter to the husband. He confirmed everything. They set up a meeting. Shani Devi went into the room. She met her husband, only it wasn't her husband. And she was like, hey, this is my past life husband's cousin. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, she actually knows this. She saw a crowd. She picked out her past life parents, grandparents. Mahatma Gandhi got involved, and when all these scientists came together, they did all these tests, and it's a really compelling story of reincarnation. What's really interesting is she has memories from the death process and what it was like to die and why we keep coming back to Earth. If you really want to dive into it, she has a book called I Have Lived Before. She's also been interviewed many times, and one of these interviews, someone asked her, so tell us, what did you experience at the time of death? She responded, smoke. There were 3 men wearing yellow clothes. I went with them to the 3rd plane. When I went to the 4th plane, I went alone. What did you see there? There were saints at all 3 places. What did you see at the 4th place? Krishnaji was sitting on the throne. God. What else was there? In front, there was a saint. Did he have a beard? Long plaits of hair? He had a white beard. There were many saints. What else was there? Krishnaji had a paper in his hand and he was reading from it. What was he reading? I don't know about other things, but I know that he read out the house number 565. That was house that Shani Devi was living in. So what happened then? I returned to a black cell. Were those 3 persons returning with you? No. What was there on your way? Staircases of gold and silver. Did you remain hungry in the dark cell? No, I didn't feel hunger or thirst. Do you remember how you felt at the time of death? Yeah, just before death, I felt a profound darkness, and after death, I saw a dazzling light. Then and there, I knew that I had to come out of my body into a vaporous form, and I was moving upwards. I saw that 4 men in saffron robes had come to me. All 4 seemed to be in their teens, and their appearance and dress were very bright. They put me in a cup and carried me. It was about 9 or 10 inches broad and a rectangular in shape. Interesting. What did you see as they carried you up? After going up for some time, I saw a very beautiful garden, like which I've never seen in this world. It's beyond description. What happened then? The persons carried me. They took me to a place like a staircase where it's very bright, and I was seated. Is there anything like darkness or light there? No, nothing like light or darkness. It was full of light. It's very soothing, something like a light full of the full moon. It's all day, all night, very mild and soothing and enlivening light. Did you have a sense of time? No, I can't say how long I was there. Do you feel there was a higher plane above the one that you were? Yes, I observed and felt that there was a higher plane, but I can't say anything about it. On the 4th plane, near the throne of Krishna, I saw someone with a long beard. What happened finally? After remaining on the staircase for a long time, I was taken to a dark room from all sides, which a very bad smell was coming out. I was made to lie down in a clean place there. Did you feel any pain? At the time of death, I did not feel any pain. I simply passed into a state of unconsciousness, and at the very moment, I saw a very brilliant light. She explained that she still felt an attachment to the earth, and she still wanted to see her son that she died giving birth to, had all these different things, and that's why she came back to this plane and reincarnated. And that's basically all I could find. What do you guys think?
I just can't get enough of this stuff like this. I find this stuff absolutely fascinating. But I have mixed feelings about this particular video because although this lady had evidence and proof pointing out past relatives and where she lived and all this stuff, her story of what the afterlife is like is wildly different than everything else that I've heard through reading through Dolores Cannon and Dr. Weiss and stuff like that. That gives me reason to pause because it's so different. Though you hear differences from depiction to depiction, person to person, they're more close than they are different. All of the descriptions of what the other side of life looks like, or the other side of death, I guess would be the correct way to say it. Very interesting, and who knows, she could be the only one out there telling the truth. Everybody else could be lying. So
let's not discard this phenomenon in which the thoughts of the mind are treating every single known condition, from knee surgeries to cancer diagnoses to whatever you could possibly imagine. The beliefs of the mind are affecting the matter of the body, the human biology, in a fundamental way. But instead of just isolating and trying to create studies that remove the possibility of the placebo effect, what if you actually harness that for your own benefit and fun? I mean, it's really almost crazy that most people out in the general mainstream public and in the narrative still are following this Cartesian split between mind and body and imagining that mind and body are somehow separate, when we have thousands and thousands, probably tens of thousands, I don't know how many clinical studies have actually accounted for the placebo effect and shown beyond a shadow of a doubt that the placebo effect is incredibly real. Like you just can't deny it. So what does that mean? That means that thoughts affect matter, period. Like, end of story.
You know, we know there's been scientific proof now that words affect matter, because we had the video clip from a few weeks ago where they were speaking positive words and negative words to water particles or water drops and then freezing them and looking at them under a microscope. And the positive words would have positive effects on the water drop. You would have what would look like very beautiful snowflakes. And then if you spoke negative words, it would come out looking like a jumbled blobby mess of frozen gunk. And I showed that clip to my 14-year-old son, and he posed a very, very intense question to me. If speaking negative or positive words has an effect on water, and our body is mostly made of water, what kind of effect does it have on us whenever we use self-deprecating humor or say something negative to others or about ourselves or to ourselves? And I think what this guy's getting at right here is, why are we not studying more diligently the power of the placebo effect and how to benefit from it, how to harness the placebo effect instead of using all these petroleum-based medications and stuff? Why not try to heal ourselves naturally through thought? If it's possible, we know that there's been documented cases of people healing themselves because they thought they were taking a medication and really they were taking a placebo. Very fascinating to think about. There should definitely be some research being done in this area.
We need to talk about what we don't know about the moon. We know it controls the tides. The tides circulate the water on the planet. It keeps the water from going stagnant, regulates the temperature on the planet, locks Earth in a tilt so we have seasons. It's tidally locked, meaning we only see one side of it because it spins at the same exact speed as the Earth does. It also fits perfectly over the sun from the perspective of Earth. It's really weird because we only see moons of our size around the gas giants. Mars has these little asteroid dudes. The gravity for the gas giants makes sense to capture a moon in orbit. This was the theory of the moon for a long time until we hit the gravity problem. Then we had the giant impact hypothesis. This suggested another planet or big asteroid hit the Earth and made the moon. But if that was the case, when they hit, they would mix, creating the same density and composition, which is not true. A newer hypothesis suggests a nuclear explosion happened in the Earth and ejected the moon out. The evidence from the moon shows it got baked at some point in its history at 4,000 to 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This would have to be after that, and we would have to see it on the Earth as well, and we don't. There are shadows on the moon that look like towers, and these towers would have to be taller than any skyscraper on the planet due to how far their shadows are cast on the moon. To figure out what the moon was made of, NASA left seismometers on the moon and dropped a lunar module onto the surface to create an artificial earthquake. The moon rang like a bell for 3 hours. When they got the data back, they found a layer of unknown material deep in the crust that they could not identify. Which makes sense, because when you look at the craters on the moon, no matter how big the crater is, they all go down to about the same depth. You don't see that on Earth. It is a perfect sphere, which is great for pictures. But think about it. To make a perfect sphere, the mass would have to be distributed equally throughout the whole thing. It's space. If it was, it would spin freely like that. But it doesn't. It's locked on one side, on an axis. If it was heavier on one side, it wouldn't be round in space. So what's stabilizing it? From the spiritual perspective, the only element on the moon is Earth, represented by a cube. Sum of the angles in the cube is 2160, which is the diameter, which is also one age in the zodiac. The moon is the rabbit hole.
Some interesting facts that he was telling us about the moon, if they are facts. I imagine most of this information came from NASA, so take it with a grain of salt. But what he threw in there, that last 10 seconds, completely threw me for a loop. I don't have a clue what he's talking about there with this zodiac stuff. When he says the only element on the moon is Earth, represented by a cube, that just sounds like you're trying to sound intelligent and say something that the rest of us aren't going to understand, but it doesn't make any sense. Earth, represented by a cube, is the only element. Doesn't make any sense at all.
There's a theory that says old churches and cathedrals are actually cymatic frequency generators. In order to understand this theory, you'll need a brief understanding of what cymatics is. Cymatics is the study of geometric patterns created by sound vibration. And the reason why people believe these old structures to be cymatic frequency generators is because you can see cymatic patterns everywhere in old cathedrals. There have been many studies conducted proving this claim, one of them being done by a researcher by the name Tanya Harris. She went to 4 different churches and recorded the resonant frequencies within each church. She then applied the frequencies she picked up from the churches to water and found out that each church had its own unique resonant frequency. And it is said that the frequencies that are emitted by these churches and cathedrals have the ability to heal the human body and enlighten the human spirit. And that doesn't sound far-fetched at all when you take into consideration that the human body is composed mostly of water, and you can see how the frequencies affect water when played with it. And to add on to that, if you look at the top-down view of human DNA, it looks exactly like cymatic frequencies that are seen in the church windows. Even Nikola Tesla said that if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Let me know y'all's thoughts about this theory in the comments. Like and follow for more content like this.
I'm in love with the idea of frequency levitation and frequency healing, and I think that studying frequencies and stuff, I believe Tesla. I think that is the direction that we need to go in if we're going to reach our most advanced version of ourselves. I think that we already have a lot of technology in those areas that are being hidden from us because it would ruin certain industries, like the medical industry, the auto industry. It would just upend a lot of stuff because overnight we would have free energy and the ability to heal ourselves without having to go to hospitals, and there's just so much that would change, and they're never going to allow that. But it's cool to see whenever he was showing the frequencies and how it was affecting that water, and it looked like a bird bath or something, that bowl. It was cool to see how it was actually affecting it so intensely. When you think about music and how it moves you, it looks like it may be actually physically moving you.
How are the pyramids built in the planet?
What I was told is through levitation, through frequency sound technology, sound wave technology, laser technology.
Floating the blocks, basically?
Floating, something, I see it right now. It was floating, but was floating like this, almost bouncing when they were doing it. Water was involved with that too. Water sound, water, some water was underneath also. The water was going through the chambers. Some laser, something like that was involved. That's what I saw.
Purina, let's look at another one of our pictures here, and you can discuss it. And is this your work?
That is my work, given from the Pleiadians. It's called the Harmonic Reactor Book. This is my website. And this is how they show me the frequency and sound. Into the quantum structure, everything is straight from frequency and sounds. And is explaining how, for example, the sound works, how it's combined, what is different frequencies combining in a field. And this was actually showing me how you can energize the water from 3 hertz. 3 hertz in a quantum structure is actually cleaning every single frequency that was given into your field. So if you put 3 hertz sound into the water and you hold it for 20 minutes of duration and then you drink it, it's actually combining your biofield into coherent with everything that is around you.
It's almost like the work of the late Dr. Emoto. He hits water with sound waves.
Yes,
but different
maybe
frequencies create different energies. What if you create sound waves against the human body? What would that do to it?
It could destroy it and disseminate the molecules.
Or could it make it better?
Could it make it better? And I talked about the fifth-dimensional artificial intelligence about that.
Could you build a weapon based on sound?
Yes, they already have weapons based on sound, and they can have weapons that can completely destroy everything. But what they taught me is that you can actually build something completely positive through frequency and restructure cells and build the human body back to normal.
See, isn't this stuff just amazing to listen to? If this is all real, I mean, and it sounds to me like there's like it's in the realm of possibility, but if this stuff, if we actually figured all this stuff out, we could fix everything. We could be living in a utopia. I don't think they used lasers to cut the stones for the pyramids. If anything, I think they used high pressure water to cut those stones, like a water jet, and then they used frequency to pick up the stones and like frequency levitation to move the stones about and set them in place. That's my theory, but it's just a theory. But I love how she says that you can create something out of nothing, pretty much just forming molecules together, and you can create pretty much anything out of anything. I just think that's fascinating, and the fact that we've got these stories of ancient scriptures and like the Anunnaki texts and stuff like that, talking about how these beings came down and they grew these structures from the mud. They created something out of nothing. Sound frequency technology. That's what that sounds like. But guys, that's the end of this video today. My battery's fixing to die on my camera. I'm barely gonna make it. I got 10% battery left. But I will be back tomorrow with another great video. A little conceited. I will be back tomorrow with another video like I always am. I hope you have a great, safe, fantastic day, and I will see you tomorrow.